Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome all of you back to a Monday night where it is only just gotten dark about 10 minutes ago, but it is currently 8:15 at night, and we are back with a brand new Chris Chan article, the stressors section of the Quictionary, and it begins with 4centgarbage.com. This article is rated M for honest content. It may contain stuff not suitable for work. 4cent Garbage is Chris's idea of Encyclopedia Dramatica and 4chan, since he blames ED for breaking up the closest thing to a relationship that he will ever have. He most demonized it in his comics. In the comics, it is depicted as a business based in a large 72-floor office building in which several hundred employees work. Apparently, the business runs both a website and a magazine, the contents of which are unclear. The website seems to be an analogous to the real life of ED, having several articles on existing people, or at least mentioning them, and a huge load of dick girl images which are uploaded near constantly. Possibly the footer section of Reddit or somewhere. Also, Internet autistic hate machine, as he calls it. I'm just a hate machine, and I will work for anybody but you. I'm just a hate machine. Anyway, Jason's final speech in Solitude issue 8, as well as Chris' ramblings in the Time Void, seem to indicate that any perceived inaccuracies in this article or images hosted on the site are deliberate attempts to slander Chris and his Sonichu's. Why exactly Jason would wish to do this, or why he has chosen to target Chris, is never addressed. But his presence at the PVCC, the Private Villa for Corrupted Citizens, meeting in Sonichude issue 7, seem to suggest that the company and all of its employees are a part of Merrily Walsh's secret trolling cabal. It is worth noting that this is the closest Chris has ever made to creating an actual parody. 4cent Garbage, never will you find a more wretched hive of lulls and trolling. And also, apparently not even, Windows. The place with no darkness, as they say. Inspiration. In 2007, while stoking his ego, Chris discovered ED's page sterilizing him and his Sonichude comics. What really grinds his gears about the page was the fan art of RoseTube with a penis. Beginning the 10th of November 2007, Chris embarked on a quest to make the website less scathing by uploading hideously drawn Rule 34 of his A Little Abominations and Sloweel Raya, along with the infamous SheCameForQuick.jpg to his page. How Chris first encountered 4chan is less clear. An email from a white knight on the 5th of November 2007 attempted to alert him to the ED page, and referred to the article as being created and written by the same people making fun of Chris on 4chan's V-board. Whether he paid any attention to the message or not, what is known is that on the 12th of November 2007, Chris first acknowledged 4chan when he made another edit to the Chris Chan article. Christian Weston Chandler would like ED and 4chan to know the following. I will continue to shove the true facts from my heart and soul down your throats, only until you take this whole page down for good. Unfortunately, this completely ass-backwards approach is possibly in many ways a receptive as to what happens for the rest of his life from this point. From this, it can be reasonably assumed that Chris discovered 4chan and ED around the same time, and that he considered them to be essentially one and the same. Chris would continue his Sisyphean edit war against ED well into 2008, but ultimately all he succeeded in doing was alienating his friend Megan Schroeder. By August 2008, Chris was finishing Sonichude issue 7, and he apparently felt the need to address these recent developments in the pages of his comic. Issue number 7 opened with Megan as a supporting character in the story, But with the real Megan wanting nothing more to do with Chris, he decided to write her out a story. As for ED and 4chan, Chris would lump these two concepts together and dub them 4centgarbagemagazine.com. The name is a slight mystery because underscores are not permitted in internet domain names. Introduction: Sonichu Issue 7. Sonichu Issue 7 was the first issue of the series to be influenced by Chris's interaction with online trolls. While Chris didn't finish the comic until the 20th of August 2008, the events of the issue are all set in the 2nd of November 2007. Nearly a whole year went by. One day before the ED article was created, just as part issues of Sonichu were very loosely based on Chris's real life, he must have wanted to acknowledge the conflict with ED/4chan and his estrangement with Megan in issue number 7. But all of that happened after the 2nd November 2007. Chris's solution was the Time Void, a poorly defined realm where Chris's character would be trapped for the next 2 issues. While stranded in the Time Void, Chris would somehow experience events going on in his real life while the fictional events in the comic unfolded without him. Upon entering the Time Void, Chris found himself assaulted by random new memories popping in my head. There were memories of things that happened after the 2nd November 2007. So Chris was essentially using the Time Void to remember the future. Along with fictional events like the Battle of Quickville, Chris also experienced memories of Joshua Martinez setting him up with Lori Lopez and Megan dumping him via email. Dumping me? But why? 4centgarbagemagazine.com? Mocking me? Slanderous filth? A drawing of me and Meg-chan? Intimate? And I drew that. She dumped me over that? Oh, that hurts. Still, curse you 4cent garbage. Chris' first memories 4cent garbage in the Time Void, Sonichu Issue 7. It became clear that this scene at once, where Chris had escaped from the Time Void, he would to do battle with 4cent garbage as a proxy for ED and 4chan, just as he had battled Jerkops and Manajoks as proxies for those who interfered with his love quest. Interfered from Chris's concept of reality, he still doesn't realize what it was that turned him away from Megan. That Megan turned away from him, I should say. Conflict with Sonichu and Rosechu in Sonichu Issue 8. In the first part of Sonichu Issue 8, Rage Against the Garbage, moving on, 4cent Garbage was formally introduced as a villainous organization dedicated to slandering people for the sake of amusement. Note Chris's inability to differentiate between slander and libel, the former of which requires spoken words or real-life gestures, impossible for a website or magazine to do. Rosechu discovers the site on the 3rd of November 2007, which just so happens to be the date that Jason Kendrick Howell created the Chris Chan article on ED. The site's content includes a page that slanders Sonichu, Chris, and her, along with lifelike drawings of Rosechu with a pickle. While Sonichu is overcome with the stress of seeing his mate depicted with a penis, Rosechu decides to fight fire with fire by editing the site, just as Chris had tried in real life, and didn't work. She crawls into her dirty, mildew-laden bathroom and takes pictures of herself in the nude, and then uploads them onto the 4cent website. However, 4cent Garbage simply adds more dick girl pictures, and she realizes that her plan will never work. Sonichu and his super cool pals in front of the 4cent Garbage building headquarters. Wow, now that's tall. Yes, my blossoming Zapbird. Sonichu, stay for... What is this? The dialogue is just, like, gets worse and worse. It even looks like the road is almost talking at this point. Instead, she travels with Sonichu and Wild to 4cent Garbage's headquarters in Clarksville, Tennessee, to confront the leader of the organization. While Wild sneaks into the building in search of the Sonichu balls, Sonichu and Rosechu take the elevator to the top floor and meet Jason Kendrick Howell, and his 17-year-old woman slave, Kathleen, who had previously cameoed in issue 7. The meeting is civil at first, but when Jason refuses to take down the Chris-chan page, Sonichu tries to fight him, and loses. Rosechu fares better as the Incredible Lioness, having inflicted wounds that would have killed a normal man. In fact, but the page remains up, and their mission is ultimately a failure. Chris, in a comic book full of Gary Stu's and Mary Sue's, they still managed to lose somehow. The fall of Force End Garbage in Sonichu issue 10. Upon Chris's return from the Time Void on the 9th of August 2007, he immediately coordinates an attack on the Force End Garbage HQ, ordering Sonichu, Wild, Black Sonichu, Punchy Sonichu, and Sonchu to meet him in front of the building. Chris arrives first at Chris-chan's Sonichu, and Jason and Beale lay a trap for him and try to steal his medallion. However, Chris discovers that the true and honest source of the ancient powers is in his high school ring, which he uses to retrieve the medallion and free himself. Later, when Chris's allies arrive, he orders Sonchu to transform into a soundstage for Christian and the Hedgehog Boys. Using the Guitar of Fail, Chris then leads the band in a live performance of Revive Sordon, and the intense power of their music begins to shake the building apart. Utilizing cartoon logic, that's just what to do. Jason converts his throne into an escape pod and flees with Kathleen, leaving the others behind. Jason declares that he is retiring from trolling in order to settle down with Kathleen and live a normal life. Chris also takes the time to use Jason as a mouthpiece to condemn Clyde Cash and Jack Thaddeus for slandering and torturing the innocent man, even though that was what Jason was supposedly doing not 2 issues ago. I know technically Sonichu doesn't really have an author or an artist, but it doesn't even have an editor now. Damn. Beale, meanwhile, decides to take shelter in the basement, explaining that he could not be killed and would simply be reassigned to Count Graduon. Once the building was destroyed and Clyde Cash and Jack, along on the top floor with no way out, chose to commit suicide by leaping down the elevator shaft together, just as the building collapses, refusing to let themselves be killed by Chris. The building then gives way and collapses, with 1,500 people still alive inside. Sonichu issue 10 reports that the 1,500 people in the building 500 were perfectly unharmed. Prefectly unharmed, what does that mean? 250 were too drunk to escape on their own. 125 of those drunk trolls managed to get out alive with the help of some sober trolls. 125 of the drunk trolls were hurt, injured, or killed. How convenient that it's split down the middle. 125 sober trolls were hurt, injured, or killed. 250 others were injured. 150 others were safe but hurt, and 100 were killed. Note that this only accounts for 1,375 people killed or injured because of what Chris did. Despite having just destroyed a building and killed between 100 and 350 people, innocent people, Chris then calls for the ambulances himself, whilst he and his team of recolors help to rescue the survivors that they themselves had nearly killed. Afterwards, Chris then weeps for the victims of his own mass murder, whilst also maintaining that it was the trolls' fault they were killed, because they made fun of him on the internet, which, according to Chris, is more than perfectly justifiable for what he did. Supposedly, destroying Force End Garbage's headquarters disabled its website as well. How? Along with Encyclopedia Dramatica's website, such that both sides' data were irrecoverably lost, and neither would be restored. Okay. The Force End Garbage building. Force End Garbage appears to be a multimedia operation, with a website and a print magazine operated from a brick and mortar building in Clarksville, Tennessee. The location of the building is probably intended to refer to where the real Jason lives, or at least where Chris thinks he lives. The 4 Cent Garbage building is 72 stories tall, 66 plus 6 as described by Beale. Okay. And the interior is painted bright red to resemble hell. On the ground floor, Beale sits at the receptionist's desk and directs visitors to an elevator on the far side of the atrium. Atrium, whatever that's. I think it meant to say like pantry or paintry or something like that. Employees are seen on the several higher floors drinking an alcohol beverage called Reeb, and passing out on the floor when their shift is over. Their work seems to involve sitting at computer terminals, uploading and editing images of Chris and his characters. On the 72nd floor, Jason Kendrick Howell holds court with a woman slave, Kathleen, at his side. It is unknown where Clyde Cash and Jack Thaddeus were stationed in the building, or what their jobs were before the building's destruction. Security in the building was incredibly lax. Wild Sonichu turned invisible to sneak into the upper floors in search of a Sonichu ball, only to find it left on a desk. Once he took the ball, his invisibility wore off, but he still was able to slip back down out of the building unnoticed. The elevator gags. A large part of Rage Against the Garbage features Sonichu and Rosechew exploring different floors in the 4 Cent Garbage building. Why Sonichu and Rosechew would stop at so many different floors to look around at whatever's going on is never explained, but they clearly react to whatever is depicted, meaning that they must have pressed all the buttons on the elevator controls for no good reason. It looks like a Christmas tree. This appears to have been one of Chris's attempts to employ some of his trademark random access humor by showing wacky stuff on each floor. Much of the material featured in these pages were images lifted directly from Encyclopedia Dramatica. Whether Chris understood their context or not, in some strange attempt at foreshadowing, Chris located these images on ED and then put them on his user page while he was still trying to edit the site. You'll be seeing the following images again soon enough. Christian Weston Chandler on the images he put on ED user page, which would later be used in Sonichu anyway. Whatever his... Also, yeah, I cannot show any of this. I'll describe what this is in a second. All of it, but whatever his reasons, Chris seemed to believe that using images from ED in one of his comics would somehow be a big deal. The floors used in the comic are listed below, along with a description of what Chris put on each one, because he just had to. Second floor, Chris draws 4centgarbage.com employees passed out drunk at their workstations when one of them recovers from his hangover and gets up. He relives the only other conscious employee of this shift and takes over. The relieved guard then drinks a can of Reeb and passes out on the floor like the others, while Sonichu and Rosechew on the elevator from the elevator and sigh for whatever reason. Third floor, Pedo Bear in a bathtub with the Powerpuff Girls. Sonichu doesn't understand the joke. Fourth floor, banner reading I hate SMRS, a reference to Sonic Rocks My Socks, from the ED article of the same name. 7th, a 4 Cent Garbage employee works on a drawing of Rosechew with a dick. Rosechew angrily leaves the elevator to punch him in the face, shouting, "I have a vagina, uterus, and ovaries, you freak." 8th floor, Sonichu spin dashes a 4 Cent Garbage employee working on a picture of Mary Lee Walsh, nude, and leading Sonichu by a leash. 9th floor. Oh my god, he really did all of these for... Sonichu and Rosechew electrocute an employee as he works on a picture of Sonichu sucking Rosechew's penis. 10th floor. Chris emerges from the time void to attack an employee working on a picture of Chris using the oversized drinking straw of Fail. Sonichu and Rosechew cheer him on in unison, despite the fact he's not even supposed to be in the thing yet. 11th floor. Troll parody of artwork by Branca, a batshit insane fan of the animated band Gorillaz. Sonichu considers it to be sad. 12th floor. Fan art of Knuckles as a gangster surrounded by sexualized versions of female Sonic characters. Sonichu naively wonders when he became so popular. 13th floor. Female... Where are we? 13. Female versions of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, Sonichu and Rose-Chew are dumbfounded. 14th floor. Pedal Bear depicted to resemble Phoenix Wright. 21st floor. Las Grandes Vacantes, an 1887 painting by Paul Cézanne. ED has a copy of the image which had been edited with captions to reference the Bronca article on ED. 22nd floor. Yu-Gi-Oh! Rule 34 from the ED page. Sonichu innocently considers an impressive dark magic attack. 23rd floor. An anthropomorphized Charmeleon with her arms handcuffed behind her spreads her ass cheeks as if it was sexual activity. More Rule 34 stuff from ED's Pokemon article. Sonichu ignores the sexualized contest and boasts that he could easily defeat the Charmeleon. Well, duh, it's handcuffed. 24th floor. Hate art of Snape Snogger's hermaphrodite character drawn by Zarya. 33rd floor. Rule 34 art from the ED Transformers page. 34th floor. Sonic and Amy Rose Rule 34. Sonichu cheers on his pal as they watch him have sex in a position very similar to the missionary cowgirl, used by Sonichu earlier in the issue. 35th floor. Nude artwork of Amy Rose, Rouge the Bat, and Cream the Rabbit, who is 6 years old. Sonichu and Rose-Chew shout "Holy crap" in unison. 36th floor. Strip poker game featuring various female characters from the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. The image has been adapted into a parody of a Magic the Gathering card. 51st floor. The entire White House with John McCain, Sarah Palin, and Hillary Clinton looking on while Barack Obama paints the walls black. George W. Bush cheerfully knocks his eventual successor off his ladder. Sonichu and Rose-Chew offer no discernible reaction. Chris notes that his father Bob Chandler came up with the joke. Recall that this story is set in the fall of 2007, so the joke really makes no sense for that year. It wouldn't make sense for at least one more year. 61st floor. Erotic artwork of Dot Warner from Animaniacs. Note, in the cartoon Animaniacs, the character Dot Warner is 9 years old. Chris, why? Why do this? 62nd floor. Erotic artwork of Louis Griffin from Family Guy. 63rd floor. Erotic artwork of Marge Simpson. 64th floor. Rule 34 of Misty and a Starmie from Pokemon. Sonichu and Rose-Chew make out during this and the preceding then 3 floors. 69th floor. Image of a Xbox 360 KO. An anime-style character patterned after design elements of the Xbox 360. As the following floor features an Xbox 360 console being destroyed, Chris includes a disclaimer stating that his hatred of the Xbox should not be connected to any lingering resentment of women. This was later changed to a ramble about the purpose of the building and about the trolls in general. 70th floor. Drawing by Chris of an Xbox 360 console being chopped in half with a meat cleaver. Sonichu and Rose-Chew applaud the instrument's destruction. The imagery is a clear indication that Chris secretly desires to murder a woman. This was later changed to a drawing of a sad troll admitting that Chris is right about the previous floor. 71st floor. PS3 message congratulating whoever murdered the Hexbox. It states that you now play your PlayStation 3 or Nintendo Wii in peace, as though the existence of a single Xbox somehow interfered with such activity. This was later changed to an achievement for exposing all the trolls. Note that this is never addressed whether or not the images such as the Rule 34 depicted here are really just drawings on a computer or posters in the building, or if they have any physical presence. However, the fact that Sonichu cheers on Sonic as he has sex with Amy Rose suggests that they really are there. Yeah, that's the thing I had to edit out here because it's all of the Rule 34 stuff and I do not really want to show anybody it. Business and staff. I am a troll with no such beliefs. I know that we are born, then we die. I intend to make the most of my pitiful life by tormenting every person within my grasp, until they all die from the shame and the distress of their existence. The page will stay up. This meeting is over. Jason Kendrick Howell responding to Sonichu's request to remove the Chris Chan article page on Sonichu issue 8. 4-cent garbage does not appear to have a clear marketing objective. While this may seem like an oversight on Chris's part, it may well be a genuine commentary on the pointlessness of 4chan and ED's activities. While most people would consider them to be entertainment sites with no other purpose than to provide humor or diversion, Chris probably doesn't find them funny, and so he depicted 4-cent garbage as a tower of bullies, mass-producing cruelty for its own sake. In the comic, Jason says his only goal in life is to hurt as many people as he can before he dies. While he may not only be speaking for himself, this seems to be the raison d'etre for everything else who works there. In Sonichu issue 10, Bio explains that this trolling gig is my heel, suggesting that he has been condemned to work there, possibly because he had once been main assistant to Adolf Hitler. Unable to die, Beale would simply be damned to serve yet another villain, Count Graduan, once the 4-cent garbage building was destroyed. While Clyde Cash had previously been depicted in Sonichu Special 1 as an agent of Mary Lee Walsh, he also appears in Sonichu issue 10, supporting 4centgarbage.com. Though confusing in some aspects, especially concerning the canonicity of the Sonichu specials, this dual role may not be a complete contradiction, as the exact relationship between 4cent Garbage and PVCC is never explained. Nor do I think we even need one at this point. Because that really does it, ladies and gentlemen. That was explaining 4centgarbage.com in a very, very childish manner. This is just a corporation just made just so Chris can knock it down. And also, bear in mind, he murdered a few people in this. And, you know, considering even back during 2010 when Chris believed, you know, comic book characters were real people, and when he's offering his apology, he looks as insincere as it's even humanly possible to describe it. He talks as if he's had absolutely no clue what he's done, or why somebody who says, you know, comic characters are real people, he would immediately go back on his word and murder without, you know, any shred of guilt whatsoever. I want to know generally whether or not people actually put that forward to Chris, or whether or not his like mailbag thing basically was ceased and desisted at that point. But what can you do? It's just something to just again inflate Chris's ego yet all the more. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this reading of 4centgarbage.com, and I will hope to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye bye for now.